Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We are jumping straight into a topic that, well, it touches so many people. Looking for a little extra flexibility, maybe a new challenge, or let's be honest, just some more income.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about side hustles specifically, those you can start even if you don't really have prior experience in that, exact field.
That's right. And we've got a fantastic source guiding us today. A recent article, it lists, I think, 30 different ideas for side hustles looking ahead to 2025. And they're explicitly pitched as needing minimal or maybe even no specific experience beforehand.
Okay.
It seems less about having credentials and more about applying skills you already have or maybe just being willing to learn.
So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack this article. We want to, go beyond just listing the ideas and sort of dig into the core insights. What makes these opportunities tick, how to choose the right one for you, and importantly, what to look out for.
Yeah.
Think of this as your shortcut to understanding that, well, the modern side hustle landscape.
Exactly. It's about seeing the potential that might be, closer than you think.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we even get to the list of ideas, what does this source tell us about what makes a side hustle appealing? And maybe more importantly, who is the kind of person who successfully starts one? According to this source, anyway.
Well, beyond the obvious, like wanting extra income, the article highlights that side hustlers are often inventive. They have this willingness to experiment. They don't necessarily need a perfect plan from day one. They're kind of okay with trying things out, seeing what sticks.
So seeing limited resources not as a barrier, but maybe as a challenge, something to get creative with.
Precisely. It's that problem-solving mindset.
Yeah.
And the source makes it really clear this isn't just for one specific group. Successful side hustlers, they come from literally all walks of life. They bring different skills, different perspectives.
That makes sense. So it's less about your current job title and more about your drive, your adaptability.
Right.
Okay, so the article organizes these ideas into categories, which honestly I found pretty helpful. Otherwise, it just feels like wading through this massive undifferentiated list.
It does, yeah. Grouping them definitely helps make sense of the sheer variety out there. The first major area they dive into is what they call popular online hustles for digital creators.
Okay, digital creators. This feels like maybe the biggest, most diverse space right now. What are some of the highlights here?
Well, one really prominent idea is monetizing a YouTube channel. The article notes the huge audience potential there. And crucially, that income isn't just from ads.
Right, there's more to it.
Yeah, once you build an audience, other opportunities open up sponsorships, selling your own products, digital or physical.
Like that story in the source about the vegan chef, Will Young. He started just sharing recipes on YouTube, right? And then grew it into selling cookbooks and online courses.
Exactly. A perfect illustration of leveraging that attention into actual commerce. They also mention starting a blog or a newsletter. And platforms like Substack get highlighted because they let creators get paid directly by readers. Subscriptions, basically.
Cutting out the middleman.
Kind of, yeah. Cuts out traditional publishing gatekeepers.
That direct connection seems really powerful. And of course, social media sponsorships, that's huge if you build a niche community, right? Whether it's TikTok or Instagram, brands want access.
Absolutely. They want those engaged followers. The source points to platforms like Shopify Collabs as places to potentially connect with brands.
Right.
Podcasting is another one in this category, content-focused. The barrier to entry is pretty low now, relatively speaking. You don't need a fancy studio to start.
True.
If you find a compelling theme, build an audience, then you can monetize with ads or sponsorships.
So creating audio, video content, building that following, and then finding different ways to, well, monetize the attention. But the article also includes some, lower commitment digital tasks in this same category.
Yes, exactly. Things that don't involve creating the content yourself, like participating in online surveys. They mention platforms like branded surveys or swag books.
Okay, surveys.
It's probably not high-income work, let's be clear, but it's accessible. Pocket money, maybe?
And getting paid to test apps and websites, that sounds a bit more interesting. The article suggests some of those gigs can actually pay surprisingly well, potentially, like $100 for an hour of feedback.
Yeah, platforms like User Testing or User Crowd connect companies that need user feedback with people willing to give it. It's less about deep technical skill and more about just offering clear observations, your honest experience.
What's really fascinating here is just within this online space, the range is enormous, isn't it? From becoming a full-on personality creating content down to just performing small, specific digital tasks.
Absolutely. There's clearly a whole spectrum of effort and skill involved. It's not just one type of person or one type of activity.
Definitely not. Okay, moving beyond just content creation, the article looks at profitable marketing and e-commerce hustles. This feels more, I guess, directly tied to selling things.
It is, yeah. Affiliate marketing is a core concept here. You're basically promoting products or services from other businesses,
Right.
and you earn a commission for sales made through your unique referral link. Platforms like ClickBank, Awin, or the Shopify affiliate program are mentioned as places to find products to promote.
So you're kind of like a digital salesperson, but you don't have to actually handle the product yourself. How does that compare to selling digital products? That's different, right?
Totally different. With digital products, you're creating something yourself using skills you might already have, maybe ebooks, music, design templates, fonts, even software.
Oh,
And then you sell them directly, usually through your own online store. It really leverages creative or technical skills you've perhaps already developed.
okay, got it. Creation versus promotion. What about drop shipping? That model gets a lot of buzz.
Yeah, the source describes dropshipping as low risk from an inventory perspective because you don't hold any stock yourself.
Right.
When a customer orders from your online store, a third-party supplier, it could be the manufacturer or another source, produces or gets the product and ships it directly to the customer. Your main role, marketing, getting the sale.
Hmm.
Shopify Collective is mentioned as a tool that can help find products from other Shopify brands to sell this way.
That definitely reduces the upfront cost and like the storage headaches. So the challenge becomes driving traffic to your store, managing customer service, that kind of thing.
Precisely. Your focus shifts almost entirely to sales and marketing. And speaking of marketing, the source also lists offering digital marketing services directly.
Oh, like freelancing.
Yeah, exactly. Things like content creation, social media management, SEO search engine optimization for other businesses. There's high demand.
That feels like a really direct application of existing professional skills. If you're good at writing or social media or you understand how search engines work, businesses definitely need that help. Building a portfolio or a demo site would be pretty key there, I imagine.
Definitely. And for people with coding skills, developing mobile apps is listed. The article suggests that even a simple, well-executed app by a solo developer can potentially find success.
High potential, but yeah, needs that specific technical skill. They also mention reselling used or vintage goods.
Yes, leveraging platforms like Facebook Marketplace or maybe setting up a dedicated online vintage store. This needs a good eye for value, I think, and knowing where to source items.
So finding treasures and giving them a new life. And there's a more niche idea in there too about advising eco-friendly businesses.
Green consulting, essentially. Helping businesses figure out ways to be more sustainable while, still remaining profitable.
That's a balancing act.
It is. The article references an anecdote about a furniture brand trying to balance profits with reducing pollution. That's the kind of challenge this sort of advisor might tackle. It definitely reflects a growing market demand for sustainable practices.
That's a great example of adapting skills to current trends. Okay, let's shift gears to creative and artistic home-based gigs. This sounds more like turning hobbies into actual income streams.
Exactly that. Designing and selling t-shirts is a really popular entry point, especially with the print-on-demand model.
Print on demand.
Yeah. Platforms like Printful or Printify mean you don't need to buy tons of inventory up front. You just upload your design, and they print and ship it only when a customer actually buys one.
That seriously minimizes the risk. What about developing a whole clothing line, though? That sounds much bigger, much more involved.
Well, the source notes it's actually more accessible now than you might think, maybe using drop shipping or outsourcing the production side. Or you could start like the crafter mentioned in the article who scaled her eyewear business. She started by creating unique handmade pieces first, build the brand that way, and then potentially scale or outsource later.
So you can start small, test the waters. Selling your photography is another creative route mentioned, either selling stock photos through sites like Shutterstock or Getty, or selling prints directly, or even offering photography services for events like weddings or portraits.
Yeah, event photography or portraits can be great weekend side hustles. And selling your voice as a voiceover artist, that's an interesting one. For audiobooks, animation, commercials.
From home.
Often, yeah. You can often do this from a home setup if you have decent equipment. And you can find gigs on platforms like voices.com or Fiverr.
That's fascinating. Something you might not even think of as a potential income source. Virtual interior design consultation is listed too.
Yes. Offering design advice, layout suggestions, maybe shopping lists, all done remotely. Building a portfolio with, say, mock-ups or photos of projects you've done would be crucial here, obviously, to show your style and capability.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And of course, the classic, creating handmade goods. If you have a craft hobby, maybe jewelry making, painting, ceramics, turning that into products to sell.
Yeah.
The article does emphasize this requires significant time investment per piece, but it can be a really rewarding way to monetize a passion and stand out with unique items.
It definitely taps into that desire people have for unique, artisanal products. There's a market for that.
Okay, moving into a slightly different area now. We have flexible side hustles for educators and communicators.
Tutoring is a classic example here. And the source points out the market is actually predicted for pretty significant growth, both in person and online.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Platforms like Cambly or Preply make online tutoring accessible globally. And for a more passive approach, potentially, you could create and sell online courses based on your expertise.
That's a smart way to leverage your knowledge multiple times over. Transcribing or translating content is another one. Requires a good ear and fast typing, or obviously language skills for translation.
Right. Platforms like Rev or Go Transcript offer these types of gigs. It's detailed work for sure, but it can often be done flexibly around other commitments.
Teaching fitness classes online is mentioned too. Using tools like Zoom or Instagram Live to reach clients directly, you could build a following or teach dedicated groups. And the article's anecdote about the fitness brand adding weighted bands kind of illustrates how even simple product ideas can pair nicely with service-based fitness hustles.
It really shows how easily expertise can be packaged and delivered digitally now, right? Reaching people far beyond just your local gym or studio.
Absolutely. Okay, finally, let's look at the last category, hands-on and local side hustles. These seem to often involve physical activity or leveraging assets you might already own.
Yeah, package delivery is a prime example. Using your own vehicle, flexible hours through services like Amazon Flex.
Okay.
Similarly, delivering groceries or maybe takeout with apps like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, SparkDriver, those are all popular flexible options.
Very accessible if you have a car and some spare time. Renting out your home or just a spare room through platforms like Airbnb or Vrbo is listed too. That's got potentially substantial earning potential.
For sure. And the source adds an interesting little twist, maybe even selling products to your guests, using QR codes linked to something like Shopify collabs.
Huh. That's creative. Combining hospitality with a bit of e-commerce on the side.
Yeah. Becoming a rideshare driver with Uber or Lyft, or even niche services like Wings for specific types of travel, like airport runs. That's another common local hustle, leveraging your car.
Washing and detailing cars is mentioned. Low startup costs, supposedly high demand. Using platforms like Jobble to find clients. You just need supplies and some elbow grease to start, right?
Pretty much. Mowing lawns and landscaping fits here too. Platforms like TaskEasy or TaskRabbit can help connect you with clients easily, though obviously scaling that up might require investing in better equipment down the line.
Right. Bigger mowers, trailers maybe. Giving neighborhood tools that taps into the demand for unique local experiences, as the article notes.
Yeah, people want authenticity.
Platforms like ShowAround or Airbnb Experiences let you share your knowledge of your local area with tourists who want something beyond the standard guidebook.
And finally, pet sitting and dog walking services. People are definitely willing to pay for reliable care for their pets. Apps like Rover or Wag make finding clients and managing bookings pretty straightforward. The article even has that fun anecdote about the viral corgi backpack business it started because the owner just needed a practical way to carry their dog around Manhattan.
That's great. What's fascinating about this whole category is, well, like you said, many of these leverage assets you might already have.
Yeah.
Your car, your home, your knowledge of your neighborhood, or just your willingness to provide a needed service locally.
They do feel very grounded compared to some of the purely digital ones, don't they? And
Yeah.
they often have lower barriers to entry if you don't have specialized digital skills.
Okay, wow. That is a huge number of ideas we just went through. With so many options floating around, how do you even begin to choose? This raises a really important question. How does someone actually pick the right side hustle for them from this, frankly, overwhelming list?
That's key. And the source offers some really useful filters. First, and maybe this is the most important one, does it actually align with your interests?
Ah, passion.
Yeah. A side hustle takes energy, especially after a full-time job. So picking something you're genuinely passionate about, or at least interested in, is pretty crucial for long-term motivation.
That makes total sense. If it just feels like another chore, you're probably not going to stick with it for long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second, you've got to consider the financial viability. Look, you might not see significant revenue right away, maybe not for a while,
Right.
but you need to assess its potential profitability down the line. Is the effort likely to be worth the potential financial return? You have to be realistic.
And it absolutely positively has to fit your schedule, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Choose models that offer flexibility and can actually use the spare moments you have. Evenings, lunch breaks, weekends, commuting time maybe. If a hustle requires you to show up somewhere at fixed times when you're already working your main job, it's probably not the right fit.
So find something that slots into your existing free pockets of time. Don't try to rebuild your whole life around it initially.
Yes. And finally, kind of decide if you want something primarily passive or very hands-on. Now, even passive ideas like selling digital products require upfront effort, right? You have to create them, market them.
Of course.
But they might require less ongoing active involvement than, say, pet sitting every weekend or driving for deliveries several nights a week. So understand the level of commitment involved.
That's a really good distinction. Are there specific tips the article offers for actually starting a side hustle while you already have a full-time job? Because that's the reality for most people.
Yes, they offer several practical tips. First, respect your schedule. Actually find and block out those dedicated time slots. Don't just hope you'll find time. Plan for it. Make appointments with yourself.
Okay, be deliberate. Map out a realistic plan too, right? Don't try to boil the ocean on day one. Figure out the basic steps. Maybe it's just setting up an online profile or getting that one crucial piece of equipment or finding your very first potential client. Small steps.
And set specific, achievable goals. Instead of just make money, which is vague, aim for something like get 3 clients in the first month or publish 5 newsletter issues. Measurable targets keep you focused and motivated.
That makes sense. And look for ways to automate and delegate, I guess.
Exactly. Use tools, use software, maybe even hire a freelancer for administrative tasks or things you're not good at so you can actually focus on the core hustle activity itself. Don't get bogged down in the busy work if you can avoid it.
Good advice.
And finally, decide early on, or at least think about it, if this side hustle is something you eventually hope to scale into a full-time job. Or if you're perfectly happy for it to remain just a side gig, extra income. That decision really influences how much time and money you're willing to invest.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Mm.
it seems like successfully balancing a side hustle with a full-time job isn't just about finding something fun to do. It really requires deliberate planning, structure, clear goals. It's almost like running a mini business on the side.
It absolutely is. It needs that intentionality. You can't just wing it indefinitely.
Now, the article also includes a really crucial section on side hustles to avoid, which is just as important as knowing what to look for, right?
Yeah.
You need to know the pitfalls.
Oh, it's vital. The online space especially is unfortunately kind of littered with schemes that might look like opportunities, but are really just traps designed to take your time or money.
Okay, so what are the big red flags the source explicitly points out? What should people steer clear of?
They list several types. First, anything that requires you to pay a significant amount of money up front just for the opportunity to maybe earn money later, these pay-to-play type gigs.
That sounds immediately suspicious, yeah?
It often is. Multi-level marketing schemes, MLMs, are also highlighted as ones to be really wary of. Their model often relies more heavily on recruiting other people than on genuine product sales to actual customers.
So do your research on the actual business model, not just the hype.
Absolutely. Time-consuming surveys that offer extremely low pay for the effort are another one to avoid if your goal is actually significant income. They might offer, pennies for half an hour of clicking boxes.
Okay, so differentiate between those quick, tiny pocket money tasks and actual income-generating opportunities. They're not the same thing.
Exactly. Non-scalable crafts are also mentioned. If an item takes you, say, 10 hours to make by hand, but you can only realistically sell it for $50, well, that's a pretty low hourly return, and it's really hard to grow that into something substantial.
A hobby is wonderful, but a side hustle needs to think about profitability and scale, potentially.
Precisely. And this might seem obvious, but illegal activities are on the list. Clearly something to avoid. They can wreck your reputation, not to mention the legal consequences. Speculative trading, like day trading stocks or crypto, is also advised against as a side hustle.
Right. It's investing, not earning.
Exactly. It's high-risk investing, not a reliable way to earn consistent side income. Treat it differently. The article also suggests viewing internships as long-term career investments, not really side hustles for earning immediate extra cash.
Okay.
And finally, hustles that require really extensive travel might just eat up all your potential earnings and costs, gas, mileage, maybe even accommodation. You have to factor that in.
Good practical point.
Yeah.
Keep costs in mind. And monotonous data entry is listed too as generally having very, very low pay.
Yeah, it's a useful filter, this whole list.
Hmm.
If an opportunity seems to fall squarely into one of these categories, the source basically suggests you approach with extreme caution or maybe just avoid it altogether.
Okay, so pulling it all together then. After exploring all these ideas, the ways to choose, the things to avoid, what are the main takeaways from this deep dive into the source? What does it ultimately say about the potential here and about the people who tend to succeed?
Well, the common traits of successful side hustlers that really emerge from the article are things like adaptability, definitely self-motivation, you have to push yourself,
Uh-huh.
resourcefulness, good time management, obviously, and being continuous learners. They're willing to figure things out as they go.
And the potential income. The article seems clear that it varies hugely, right? Depends on the type of hustle, how much time you put in, the expertise you develop. But it can realistically range from, what, hundreds to maybe even thousands of dollars per month?
That seems to be the range suggested, yes. And for specialized skills and significant consistent effort, it can potentially grow to replace a full-time income eventually. But that's typically not where it starts for most people.
And the time commitment just to start doesn't have to be overwhelming. The source suggests just a few hours a week can be enough to actually get something off the ground initially.
Yes, it's more about consistent effort over time, not necessarily burning yourself out with massive hours right at the beginning. And finding customers often start simply leveraging your existing social media, word of mouth, or just using the built-in audiences on many of those platforms we talked about.
Right. So we've really covered a lot of ground here. We've explored this wide spectrum of ideas from online creative projects and e-commerce all the way to local, hands-on services. We've looked at how you might filter those ideas based on your own interests and schedule, and crucially, highlighted the types of so-called opportunities to be really wary of.
And these ideas, they aren't just descriptions, are they? They're really starting points. They offer ways to either leverage skills you already possess, or they provide a framework for learning entirely new skills just by doing. It's a practical way to test out a business idea, maybe explore a new field, without the huge risk of quitting your day job first.
So what does this all really mean for you, the listener? A side hustle seems like it's potentially more than just chasing some extra cash. It's maybe an opportunity for experimentation, for skill development, for gaining real-world business experience, and maybe building something potentially significant, all on your own terms.
And the source leaves us, and you, with a really thought-provoking question as you consider all these possibilities for yourself.
Where will your side hustle take you?
It's a challenge and an invitation, all wrapped into one.
It certainly is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.